In recent years, a striking paradox has emerged in Western activism. Sexual minorities, particularly members of the LGBTQ+ community, and progressive subcultures are frequently seen championing causes or forming alliances with groups whose ideological foundations are overtly hostile to their very existence. The most visible example of this is the slogan, "Queers for Palestine." But this raises a difficult question. What happens to queers in Palestine? Homosexuality is criminalized in over 65 countries, and in several it is punishable by death. Among these are Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Mauritania, Somalia, and Gaza, which has been under the control of Hamas since 2007. In 2016, Hamas reportedly executed a man for being gay. In Iran, gay men have been publicly hanged. According to Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, LGBT people in many Islamic countries live in fear of imprisonment, torture, and honor killings. Yet in cities like London, New York, Amsterdam, and Berlin, we frequently see members of the LGBT community waving Palestinian flags at pride events, often standing side by side with activists denouncing Israel, ironically the only country in the Middle East where gay people can live openly and without fear of state persecution. This contradiction was sharply observed by Douglas Murray, a British author and openly gay public intellectual who wrote in The Strange Death of Europe, "Why do we import intolerance and call it diversity?" Murray, who has spent years studying migration, identity, and European liberalism, further argues in The Madness of Crowds that intersectional ideology has created a hierarchy of victimhood in which logic is frequently sacrificed. He writes, "The problem with identity politics is that it can become a competition, a kind of oppression Olympics, and when victimhood becomes currency, the most contradictory alliances are made." Let's pause on this. Why would LGBTQ+ activists support regimes or ideologies that condemn or persecute them? To understand this, we must dive into intersectionality, a term coined by American academic Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. Originally developed to describe how different forms of discrimination, like racism and sexism, intersect in the experiences of black women, it has since been expanded into a broader theory of power and oppression. In today's activist culture, intersectionality leads to the belief that all marginalized groups must unite against the oppressor, typically defined as white, male, Western, Christian, capitalist, or straight. This collectivist logic flattens all nuance and encourages solidarity even when the values of those groups are radically incompatible. A prime example of this dissonance is seen in Queers for Palestine, a movement that presents Palestinian liberation as aligned with queer liberation. But in Gaza and the West Bank, homosexuality is taboo, often violently suppressed. The social stigma is intense. In Gaza, under Hamas rule, LGBT individuals live in hiding. Many flee, not to neighboring Arab countries, but to Israel. In 2022, the Times of Israel reported that dozens of gay Palestinians had requested asylum in Israel to escape persecution at home. One anonymous man told Haaretz, "If I go back to Gaza, they'll kill me. In Israel, I can breathe." Even among Arab citizens of Israel, who enjoy equal civil rights, there is a higher degree of tolerance than in surrounding countries. Tel Aviv, often dubbed the gay capital of the Middle East, regularly hosts large pride parades, events that are completely unthinkable in Ramallah, Riyadh, or Tehran. This reality doesn't stop activists from branding Israel as an apartheid state or accusing it of pinkwashing, a term used to describe the promotion of LGBT rights as a form of political distraction. Ironically, this critique comes from activists who have never lived under Hamas or the Iranian regime. French philosopher Pascal Bruckner, in The Tyranny of Guilt, discusses this phenomenon as a form of moral masochism in the West. He writes, "The Western world is constantly indicting itself. It claims to be the worst civilization on earth and finds its greatness in self-denunciation. This mentality feeds into what sociologist Eric Kaufman terms ethnomasochism, the belief that Western civilization is inherently oppressive and must apologize endlessly. In this mindset, even when minority groups from non-Western cultures commit acts of violence or discrimination, they are excused as victims of Western imperialism." This ideological trap is not limited to queer activism. It extends into feminist, environmentalist, and anti-racist movements. Feminists for Sharia, for example, is a fringe group that defends Islamic dress codes like the hijab, despite the fact that in countries like Iran and Afghanistan, women are brutally punished for not wearing them. Greta Thunberg, while championing climate activism, has appeared at rallies that promote causes antithetical to liberal democratic values, such as supporting Hamas-affiliated groups. The journalist and author Bruce Boer, a gay American who moved to Europe, wrote in While Europe Slept about his shock at how liberal Europeans championed multiculturalism at the expense of their own liberties. He recounted stories of gay men in the Netherlands and Sweden being attacked by Islamist youths, while authorities downplayed the incidents out of fear of appearing racist. The left, Bauer writes, has made a fatal bargain. It defends intolerance when it comes wrapped in the language of resistance. And it's not just anecdotal. In the UK, a 2021 YouGov survey found that 0% of British Muslims surveyed said homosexuality was morally acceptable, while over 60% believed it should be illegal. Yet LGBT organisations like Stonewall rarely criticise these views, choosing instead to target Christian bakers or feminist authors. Why? Because intersectionality teaches that criticism of a non-Western or non-white group is inherently suspect. Criticizing Islam is Islamophobic, regardless of whether the critique is about human rights. As a result, activists who point out these contradictions, like Douglas Murray, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, or Majid Nawaz, are often vilified, not engaged with. This intellectual impasse is costing real lives. According to reports by Asylum Access and ILGA, LGBT refugees from Muslim-majority countries often face abuse not just in their home countries, but also in refugee camps in Europe, where they're again targeted by their co-religionists. This is not a hypothetical. It happens in Sweden, Germany, France, and the Netherlands. And yet silence reigns. Even within activist circles, those who raise these issues risk social ostracism. In 2020, a lesbian activist in Berlin was disinvited from a Pride event for suggesting that intersectionality must not excuse misogyny or homophobia. Her name was erased from the program. What we are witnessing is not just inconsistency, it is cognitive dissonance weaponized by ideology. And it's dangerous, not only for the integrity of human rights discourse, but for the very people who claim to be defending the oppressed. Real solidarity means recognizing shared values, not just shared grievances. It means standing for universal principles, freedom of expression, gender equality, sexual freedom, and religious tolerance. These are not Western impositions. They are hard-won achievements that protect minorities everywhere. Douglas Murray poses the question clearly. Is it truly tolerance to defend the intolerant, or is it cowardice dressed as compassion? When LGBT activists defend regimes and movements that would stone them to death, we must ask, what exactly is being defended? And more importantly, at whose expense? A culture that refuses to defend itself will not survive, and nor will its minorities. If you found this content valuable, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. You can explore the full list of sources and recommended reading in the description below. Purchasing the books through our links helps support the channel. And if you'd like to contribute directly, consider making a donation via our Buy Me a Coffee link to help us keep creating content like this. Thank you.